Chapter 29 Blood, Bleach, and Lies. The little kids came screaming over to see what had happened, and I grabbed Max and Ulysses and pushed them all back toward the train. Go back to the train, I shouted. This is an emergency. Go, go, go. They could not be allowed to see what had happened. I yelled at them every step back into the train. I pushed them inside and pulled one of the futon sofas in front of the door. You stay in there until it's safe. We'll come and get you when it's safe. They cried and sobbed inside, banging on the door. Astrid and Zahalia were curled up together on the other futon couch in the living room. Astrid was singing to Zahalia. Robbie was dead. Brayden had been shot, and now Astrid was singing to Zahalia. I had to keep the facts straight or I might go crazy. Those were the facts. I raced back to my friends. This is bad, Jake kept repeating. It must have all felt like a very bad trip to him. Josie was crying on the floor, the gun lying next to her on the linoleum. Nico had Brayden lying on the floor and was pressing both his hands down on Brayden's shoulder. Blood was all over Nico's arms and shirt. Brayden was soaking with it. I'm trying to stop the bleeding, but I don't know what to do, Nico said, looking up at me with pure panic in his eyes. I ran to the pharmacy. Alex was there, scrambling to gather as many bandages in his arms as he could. It was dark. It was hard to find anything because the store was so dark. Bring those to Nico and then go turn the lights on, okay? I said. But the power, he protested. We need light, I answered. We need to see what we're doing. Okay. He gulped and ran off to obey. I needed something to stop the bleeding. I knew stuff existed because once our neighbor fell off a ladder and opened up a huge gash on the back of her head. The EMTs had sprinkled a powder on it, some kind of powder to stop bleeding. I jumped over the pharmacy counter. The place was a mess. What the hell had Jake been up to back here, I thought. The lights came blinking and twittering back on. I squinted at first. Then I started scanning the shelves. I grabbed the pain pills Jake had given me. Those would help Brayden. I couldn't find that bleeding stuff. I didn't know what it was called or anything. I grabbed some of the antibiotics Nico had given to Mr. Appleton and I ran back. The crime scene looked much, much worse with the lights on. We gotta get this body out of here, Jake was nearly crying. We will, Jake, we will, Nico said tersely. Shut up about it. Robbie had been pushed backward by the force of the bullet and lay slumped against the shelves. Blood and clumps of tissue, brain, were spattered over the decorative steering wheel covers behind him. And under his legs, an oil slick of blood was spreading slowly. Nico had made a square pad of bandages out of the supplies Alex had brought and was pressing down on Brayden's shoulder with all his might. I couldn't find that blood stuff, I huffed, out of breath. It's slowed, Nico said. I think the bleeding slowed, but he's lost so much blood. I took Brayden's uninjured arm and tried to find a pulse. He's cold, I said to Nico. I know. Where's Josie, I asked. Astrid came and got her. We have to do something about the body, guys, Jake wailed. It's freaking me out. Nico looked at me. Can you get rid of it, he asked. You don't need my help, I said. Alex will be right back, Nico said. I turned to Jake. Okay, I'll get rid of the body, but you have to help. Jake was crying now, tears streaming down his face. It's my fault, he moaned. Stop, Jake, I need your help. I can't do this, he said. Yes, you can, just don't look at him, I told Jake. I grabbed Robbie's hand. It was cold and heavy, like clay, a clay body. I took the one hand and Jake took the other. Oh, God, Jake groaned. We flopped Robbie onto the air mattress. His body landed with a sick, wet sound. I picked up the comforter, which had been lying on the floor, and covered the body with it. Come on, I told Jake, pull. We pulled the air mattress back to the storeroom, leaving a grisly trail behind, blood running in parallel lines, as if the air mattress was a flat paintbrush trailing firehouse red. Jake had blood all over the center of his body and his arms. We looked like we'd just butchered a cow. I'm scared, Jake said. I know, Jake, I said. I don't want Brayden to die, he said, breaking into sobs. Christ, I have to get myself together. He wiped the tears away with his forearm, which was spattered with blood. Jake and Alex were assigned to cleaning up the blood, while I helped Nico to bandage Brayden. We cut Brayden's shirt off. Nico swabbed him down with that orange stuff and then asked me to hold the bandage down hard while he wrapped the whole shoulder with gauze. It was wet and disgusting to do this. The bullet had taken a chunk off the shoulder. The flesh was raw meat, horrible and messy. I could see white bone under the torn meat. I tried not to black out. Keep the pressure on, Nico commanded. I closed my eyes and pressed down hard. Nico didn't think we should move him too much, so I went and got a new inflatable mattress. Me, Nico, Jake, and Alex lifted him, as carefully as we could, onto the air mattress. Nico sent Alex for space blankets and Gatorade. Nico continued to attend to Brayden, while I helped Alex and Jake finish cleaning up. By the time we finished, there were 8 trash bags filled with blood-soaked paper towels, dirty wet wipes, empty bottles of bleach, etc. After what felt like hours and hours of hard, gruesome work, the kind of work nobody ever wanted to have to do, Nico finally said, I think he's stabilized enough. Stabilized enough for what? I said. Maybe he was in good enough shape that we could wash up and change clothes. We looked gruesome beyond belief. Stabilized enough for us to go talk to Sahalia. Sahalia was still lying with Astrid on one of the futon couches. They were just lying together, spooning, their bodies curled together in one doubled S. Neither of the girls was asleep. Their eyes were wide awake, staring forward. Josie was curled up on the butterfly chair, staring ahead. Someone, probably Astrid, had thrown a blanket over her. There were no sounds from inside the train, but the futon I had put in front of the door had been removed, so I gathered that everything was okay inside. Sahalia, Nico said gently, kneeling down beside the futon. We need to know what happened. Sahalia simply closed her eyes. Come on, Sasha, Jake tried. We have to know. No one blames you at all for what happened, I said. Robbie was lying to us and we need to know the truth, Nico said. He said he would take me with him, Sahalia said quietly. He said we were just alike and we could make it together. I thought it would be, like, as a team, but then Tears were sliding down her face. She made no move to wipe them away. He said that I should be, like, his girlfriend, and I guess I thought I could, do what all he wanted me to do, but then I didn't want to, and I was keeping an eye on him, Astrid said. I didn't trust him. She said no, and he wouldn't stop. Josie grabbed my sleeve, pushing her way through to the center of the group. So I was right, right? He was bad. He was bad? She was breathing fast, tears pooled in her eyes. He was a bad guy, and I had no choice but to do what I did, right? Yes, of course. Absolutely, we answered, but she didn't seem to hear us. Nico took her by the arms and looked right into her eyes. Josie, he said, Robbie was bad. You saved my life by shooting him. You did the right thing. Josie swooned, her knees buckling out from under her. Nico steered her down onto the futon, next to Astrid and Sahalia. Astrid put her other arm around Josie, and now she had Sahalia on one side and Josie on the other. I heard the shot and I came running, Josie said. I understood she needed to tell us all her story. There, in the middle of the aisle, was the bag on the floor and the second gun just laying there. I took it. I wasn't going to shoot anyone. I just thought a gun shouldn't be laying on the floor. She wiped at her eyes. I didn't even want to pick it up, but I did. And then I saw Robbie hurting Nico. I didn't even think, she whispered. I just shot him. It felt so natural, as if shooting people is something I do all the time. You did the right thing, I said. Because he was going to hurt Nico, right? He was going to shoot Nico. He had already hit me with the gun, Nico said, and I think he was going to shoot me. Yes, she said, I did the right thing. I did. Josie pulled her head back and looked at looked at us all of a sudden. Nico, Jake, Alex, me. My shirt and my arms. "Are you guys covered in blood?" she asked. "You have to get cleaned up," she said, staggering to her feet. "What will the kids think?"